Chapter 3rd, Briefs, Part C. Easements. We're going to talk about easement, restrictive covenants, and profits a plethora. So easements. Privilege acquired. Basically, Punjabi tenu langa we kehne langa, right? An easement is a privilege acquired by a landowner for the benefit of his and over the land of another. So highlight privilege, right? And highlight benefit of his land and over the land of another. The land receiving the benefit is called the dominant tenement. So highlight the keyword dominant tenement. A person who receives the benefit is a dominant, and the land over which the right is exercisable. Exercisable means usable. Is called servant tenement. For example, you see the hallway, right? You have to come through the main door, right? You want to come to this boardroom. So basically, in order to use this one, right? So a person who uses this benefit, what do we call him? The person who receives the benefits is the dominant, right? A person who provides the benefit is called servant. For example, Homex Realty is the servant and the JB is the dominant. And there must, you need to remember these three. There must be three requirements in order to constitute an easement of law. So three requirements. Three basic requirements. Number one, must be a dominant and servant. Highlight dominant and servant. So there must be the Homex Realty and the JB here, two parties, right? Two parcels of land affected by every easement. Dominant doesn't have to be next door. Next door means adjacent to servant, but close enough to benefit. For example, it is not the next door, but it needs to be close enough, right? So highlight this one. This is very important, right? Yeah, doesn't need to be adjacent. Does not have to be adjacent, right? But close enough. Yeah, next door only, right? Easement must accommodate the dominant easement. So easement must accommodate the dominant. Basically, easement is beneficial to JB, right? It must accommodate the dominant, right? In the exam, they'll say accommodate the servant. So that is wrong, right? The land must benefit not just the landowner. Who must hire the land? So which enjoys the benefit? Land. This is the land which enjoys the benefit, right? This is boardroom. Not the land, not just landowner also, but is the land. If the landowner, so then it's a license. Then it's called a license. If only landowner landowner enjoys the benefit, is called a license. It says it. If just the owner benefit, then the right created is not an interest in land, right? Then it's called a license. The easement must be capable of forming the subject matter of a grant. Subject matter of a grant. It means identifiable boundaries. Easement must be easily defined. Highlight defined. Mean identify boundary lines. Person receiving the benefit, that kind of a thing, easement may be granted for any length of time. Basically means subject of matter of a grant means identification of boundaries. We know this is the boardroom. This is the right. This is the identification. This land who is using it? JB is using it, right? Basically, remember the three key things. Number one, must be dominant and servant tenement, right? Number two, it must accommodate the dominant, right? And number three, subject matter of a grant. Subject matter of a grant means identification of boundaries. Okay? So these three things to remember. And then creation of an easement. By law or by statute, BC Hydro does not need a dominant and servant tenement crown municipality to have statutory right of ways, gas lines. Basically, by law. For example, BC Hydro can get into anybody's property, right? If there's easement, right? Express document when both parties agree, created between the owner, dominant, and servant. For example, it's created between Omex and helping hand, right? Express document means that both parties agreed. Implication of law. For example, use of well granted, but no mention was made of an easement to support it. The law would just imply that you would have a right of access. For example, you can use well, right? It's granted, but automatically you're going to use the land now, right? To use it. It's implied.
So you using it as well, you can use it.
Yeah. No mention was made of an easement to support it. Now you have to go and use the well, right? The law would just imply that you would have a right of access, right? By prescription. By prescription basically means you are prescribed, right? But it's not no prescription in BC. In BC, it's not used. Okay. Bottom line, this one is mostly in the exam. What comes in is the three basic requirements, right? What is that? There must be dominant and servant. Doesn't have to be adjacent, right? Number 2, it must accommodate dominant tenement. Number 3, subject matter of a grant means identification of boundaries. Okay. And the next, release of an easement. If the dominant tenement abandons property, this shows intentions to release. You understand? If dominant tenement abandons means he gives up. So basically it's a release, right? Express agreement if both parties agrees. Agree between dominant and servant as the present owners. Okay? So easement is basically privilege of land, right? And next is we're going to talk about in the next section.